Welcome into episode 3 of Wicked Awesome Nintendo, your bi-weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Scott Creamer. You can find Wicked Awesome Nintendo on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Email your questions to wickedawesome.nintendo@gmail.com. The pre-order madness has finally come and gone in North America. Plus, is the launch lineup for Switch 2 too light? Here to discuss that and many more things is my co-host, Shane Hibbard. Shane, what's going on today?
Scotty, we're here.
We're
Switch
here.
to pre-order.
The madness
We
has come and gone. We're
we're still
still
here.
standing.
We survived it, and feel. I think we feel okay about it. I think we're doing all right.
I didn't feel good that night, that's for sure. I felt pretty bad actually, but yeah, I'm feeling pretty good as it stands right now.
Mhm.
Pre-orders went up, and it went about as good as you would expect.
Mhm.
Um, you had success finding a Switch 2, yes?
I did. I definitely did. Made the late night, late night setup, refreshing the page. We're on the East Coast, so it was in fact midnight.
Yeah.
Which yeah, kind of made it exciting. But was also like too stressful for something that late at night.
Yeah, we can't complain too much because typically when a Nintendo Direct drops, it's at 9 a.m. our time, and Pacific time it's 6 a.m. So we can't. We'll let them have one this time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think let's just go over how the night kind of unfolded. Target went up first. That was pretty hit or miss for a lot of people. I found success at Target. I got two pre-orders in. I got one at Target. The Target website was completely bogged down by all the traffic. It went as well as you would think it would for Target.
Mhm.
Did you have any success at Target at all, or
Yeah, temporarily.
yeah,
So yeah, it was like you said. They're the one that just didn't have any structure to letting you in. No queue, no line. It was just like, hey, it's live. Get clicking.
yeah, it was a free
Get
for all.
adding.
They're just go ahead. It's
Hmm.
like okay, I'll give it a shot, but uh,
And you got one. We were
right.
texting back and forth, and you got one, and I just couldn't and couldn't and couldn't, and then finally it worked, and then finally it didn't, because 30 seconds after getting my order confirmation, I got an order cancellation. um
Yeah, it's so weird.
it was strange. And then
Yeah.
I did see that other people were having that happen, and I guess I'm assuming that without them having any kind of structure, they probably just sold through their inventory faster than they thought. I don't know why they wouldn't have been prepared for that, but it seems like they did, and then had to backtrack and cancel those who came in after. Um, so I missed there, but we were excited because you had gotten one, and then it was on to the next. Really.
Yeah, I was shocked when my order went through at Target, and then I kept checking and checking and checking to see if it got canceled. It didn't get canceled, so I was like, Target was honestly my last pick to get a pre-order in, because I know that's not showing up for like a good 2 weeks after release. So um
Hmm.
that was my last pick. Second, Walmart went up. They threw everybody in a queue, but it was weird because when I checked it, it said you're in line, stay in line. If you wanna leave the line, click here. But it didn't like give like any like sort of like countdown or anything, or any like your estimated wait time is blah to put in your
Hmm.
pre-order. Did you get anything indicating how long it would be for you, or did it just say that you were in line?
It just said that I was in line, which kind of lowered my hopes that I would get it, because I was also seeing posts about people with a countdown timer, and so I
Yeah.
assumed if I didn't have one, then I wasn't even close to getting in.
Yeah.
Um, So it was the combo of Target canceling and Walmart having no timer of any kind where I was just waiting. I'd had success in the past with Walmart with pre-order stuff, and they did like it was very similar to the queues they had in the past, that line setup. So I just stayed in it, sat there, waited.
Yeah, and you were successful at Walmart, correct?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was a while. Like I think I was in the line for about an hour
Oh,
before
really?
it was almost yeah, it was almost 1 o'clock, I think. Um because the third, I guess we can bring Best Buy into the mix now. Best Buy was a little later. Right. They didn't go live right at
So
midnight, and I
late.
think that's yeah, I think that kind of is the way it goes with them most of the time. Um but they had a similar queue line sort of structure where you request you want to be a part of it and then wait there and then they let you in to place the order, which realistically I do like because then it's not the chaos of Target where you're just like, oh, I'm going to try to enter in all my information or make sure it's correct and it's checking things and then it goes out of stock as I'm hitting order. Like that's the
Yeah.
worst feeling. At least with ending up in a queue, as long as you get in, they're like, all right, you have 10 minutes to enter your information, which is great because at least like once you get in, you feel like, all right, at least I'm going to get this. This order is going to be completed.
Right. Yeah, it gave you a shot. Yeah, with Best Buy, they went up. I think it was 12:27 or something like that. They were supposed to go live at midnight, but for some reason they were like, we're not gonna do that. So Best Buy was my number one choice because I wanted to get in for the midnight launch at Best Buy,
Yep.
and pick it up in store. So Best Buy finally went live. I waited in the queue. It was fairly simple with Best Buy. I think I waited 15 or so minutes. But when I went to check out, Best Buy was like, "Oh, we don't know who you are. Where do you live? What's your phone number? What's your credit card information?" It's like,
Mhm.
bro, I had that entered. I checked
Yeah.
before and all that stuff was entered and they're just like, man, we don't know who you are, can you please enter all your information? So I'm like frantically like entering in all my information because I was thinking that it was gonna get yanked from me. And then
Mm.
thankfully I got a pre-order in at Best Buy. You did as well. So we're going to Best Buy to pick up our Switch 2s midnight on June 5th. So I feel pretty good about that. But the pre-order situation, it varied from store to store. It was hit or miss. A lot of people were left with a lot of frustrations. People were successful. So I got two pre-orders in. I'm very I'm very nervous to cancel any one of them just because I don't want to cancel one and then something happened to the other and I'm out of a Switch 2 and I had to hunt it down for months. So I'm gonna keep both of them. I'm probably gonna sell the other one at cost on Facebook Marketplace, just so somebody who is looking for one and wants to play and is a Nintendo fan can get the chance to secure one that way. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you where I'd rather just make sure it comes in and if one gets canceled, cool, I got one. If they don't get canceled, then yeah, it goes to either someone that I know that didn't get one or
Right.
it it gets it gets thrown up on marketplace and a actual person comes and picks it up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm sure you're not going to have any issues selling that. So,
No, especially if we're just selling it at cost. I mean, that's I would imagine that would go within minutes of posting it.
oh, you'll meet up with
Seconds.
somebody within the hour that you
Yeah.
posted. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
no issues there. Uh, there haven't been really any significant second waves of Switch 2 pre-orders. Walmart had another wave go up, I think the week after. It was on a Saturday and it was in stock all day, but you were saying that there was various degrees of success with that second wave from Walmart. And I'm assuming that the second wave was with cancellations and all the rest. But you looked into it a little bit deeper. You wanna dive into the Walmart situation a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was I think it was Saturday the 26th, so 2 days after the official, um, pre-orders opened. They did have inventory come back into stock. We're assuming it was, either cancellations or I don't know if someone had, like it's like a 48-hour card hold and then something, who knows, fell off with their card and it just auto canceled the order. I don't know how, um, Walmart handles billing for pre-orders on it fully, but we're assuming
Right.
everything was inventory that wasn't a new allotment. It was probably just from that initial allotment that they're pushing back out there. And yeah, it there was a lot of things that came across from what I saw, notes from people that like it's in stock, it's there, but then it was going in and out of stock, and the site was acting weird where you had to, people are like, "Oh, just keep clicking add to cart and then keep clicking checkout, 25 times and I promise it'll go through." And some people seem like they had success and some didn't. So it kind of seems like they were maybe releasing the cancellations in batches, or I again, on Walmart's end, I don't know how it works, but it didn't seem like it was a super smooth, clear, like come back and pre-order again kind of a transaction. It was up for several hours of hit or miss. Maybe you get it, which is just stressful.
Yeah, it's not fun for anybody. But
No.
I think I the sentiment on the internet is Walmart probably had the best or the easiest system ordering a Switch 2. So that makes it a little bit weird for me where when the second wave came up, they were having so many issues because so many people found success at Walmart the initial pre-order wave one. So with wave two being that sort of sketchy and hit or miss, that's sort of surprising because people were really praising Walmart how they handled the initial pre-order wave. So um
I They
yeah,
didn't have
not
a yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go.
Well, I mean, they had I think that the queue that they had, that line system that they had on pre-order night did work really well. My assumption is that on Saturday that system wasn't in place and it
Right.
was just releasing out orders, and it was probably not working because you had sort of a Target situation where someone had it in their cart and someone else had it, and then Walmart was doing a check of inventory and then it was like, "Oh no, that's too many." And then, "Oh, actually no, wait, we do have enough." And it definitely seems like it was just like clearing out the rest of those cancellations without that um thought out line system that they normally have in place, which is probably why it was a little tougher.
Yeah.
But no
Makes
one
sense.
else has released the second batch, so I mean, we know that Target oversold from the start, so there's probably a good chance that we're not going to see another rollout from them, maybe until launch.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, obviously there's cancellations, so whether people cancel it themselves or credit cards get declined, whatever. I'm sure they have a batch that they could do a second wave. Whether or not they're actually going to do that is up for debate. Um, we still have time. We're about a hair over a month out before the Switch 2 launch, so we could see another wave of pre-orders go up at Best Buy and Target. Amazon is completely out of this. Just their beef, Nintendo's beefing with them. They're beefing with Nintendo. Not quite sure what the situation is, but they did not carry any pre-orders, and it seems like stock was allocated to the other retailers that Amazon would have gotten. So
Yep.
weird situation there, but we'll continue to keep an eye out and monitor the situation. Uh, to see what sort of goes on. It is interesting
Yeah,
for sure.
it is. So they just hold it till launch day and just like, hey, we've got more on June 5th. We actually have, you know, 10% more inventory than we thought. I don't want to deal with the hassle of more pre-orders. Let's just push everything over to
Yeah.
launch day and just have a larger allotment for launch day, which could be. It's not like they're not going to sell it on launch day. So,
Right. It'll go.
like,
It'll go.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure
Exactly.
Nintendo will give them extra allocation after they get all the data for pre-orders, and they're still producing hundreds and thousands and whatever Switch 2s a day. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, but we're hurtling pretty quickly towards launch of the Switch 2. It's very exciting. We're a little bit over a month out, but we had a conversation the other day about the launch lineup for the Switch 2, and it begs the question if the launch lineup is too light for the Switch 2. So you sort of broke it down. The Switch 2, you compare the Switch 2 to the Switch 1 launch lineup. Um, you sent a Word document. So going over this for the Switch 1 launch, we had Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, and Snipper Clips. So
For the
that was
Nintendo, yeah,
for the
Nintendo published games.
Nintendo
Yeah.
Switch. This is Switch 1.
Yeah.
For Switch 2, we have Mario Kart World. We have the enhanced editions for Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. We have Switch 2 Welcome Tour. And we have Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD. Those are Nintendo published games. So I'm I'm not going to count the Legend of Zelda games because people have played those to death, and I think 99% of the Switch 2 early adopters are going to be people who have already played these games. I'm going to take these games out of the equation. So what we're looking at is Mario Kart World, Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD. Um, that's it's pretty light in my opinion. Which begs the question: is Mario Kart World gonna be enough to hold over the Switch one? The Switch 2 launch. I know that I know that a lot of people love Mario Kart in general. It's one of their favorite franchises on Switch. I get that. But, is there do you really want to be playing Mario Kart World? Like, are you going to put 100 hours into Mario Kart World within the first month and a half until Donkey Kong Bonanza comes out July 17th? Like, for me, it's like a racing game. That's something I play sort of in tandem with something that I'll play for a couple hours. I'll tuck it away. I'll go back to my main game, and then I'll go back to the racing game. Uh, I know Mario Kart World is this big open world. There's a bunch of challenges in the open world. It seems like a very robust and feature heavy game, but I mean, personally, I don't know if that's a game that can hold me over um 100 hours while waiting for Donkey Kong Bonanza in a month and a half. What are your thoughts about the Mario Kart World um being basically the only real heavy game? I mean, Switch to Welcome Tour, it's like, is that a game? Like, that's a tech demo. It's like, is there going to be anything really meaningful with that? I don't know. Bravely Default, sure, if you're into JRPGs, but yeah, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, it like you said, if you take out Zelda, you're looking at these two side by side. You've got Mario Kart versus Breath of the Wild, which I think is where you have to put those. You're putting those two against each other. You kind
Yep.
of take the Switch 2 Welcome Tour and pair it up with 1-2 Switch as kind of like the tech demo-y kind of simple games. And then you've got the third game, which these don't really, Snipper Clips versus Bravely Default doesn't really match up too much, but I think that
No.
they probably cater to a much more niche audience themselves, where
Yep.
it's just kind of like, this is the other game. Do you like this genre of game? Here it is. It's for you, but it's not overly appealing to everyone. So really, it's just Mario Kart and the Welcome Tour.
Right.
Um, and and yeah, I agree that personally, I agree with you on it. Normally, I think would be a secondary game for me. Um, I'm I'm holding out hope that the free roam and the challenges they have, I can, kind of it stretches its legs a little bit. Um,
Right.
because I mean, we knew Breath of the Wild took up that could have carried us 3 months on Switch One. Like it would have been no problem getting to Donkey Kong in July if Breath of the Wild type game released on Switch Two. Um, that wasn't Breath of the Wild again.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, like if this was the Switch One launch and all things were the same with Breath of the Wild at launch, then Donkey Kong Bonanza coming out a month and a half later, you would probably still be playing Breath of the Wild, and you might look at Donkey Kong Bonanza and be like, I don't know if I can get to that because I'm still in the middle of Breath of the Wild.
mhm,
But with Mario Kart World, I think for me, I'll have no problem getting to Donkey Kong and feeling like I've had my fill with Mario Kart by the time Donkey Kong comes out. I could be totally off base, but I don't know. It's just like there's only so many, and I get like the the world and the tracks and everything seem very. There's a lot of replayability to them, but at the end of the day, it is a racing game, and
sure.
for me, I don't know about the main core of Nintendo fans, but for me, Mario Kart, I don't think it's gonna. I'll probably play it for a month, but I'm not gonna play it like I'll probably play it hardcore for like 2 weeks, and then very casually for another 2 weeks, and that's a game I'm gonna come back to
Mhm.
here and there, absolutely throughout the entire life cycle of the Switch 2. But that's not a game that's really gonna hold me over very well. And I could be totally wrong. We could be like we could be sitting here in 2 months, and I'll still be playing Mario Kart like crazy every single day, putting 2 to 3 hours in. I could be totally off base, but the way as it stands now, and knowing how Mario Kart sort of exists in my Nintendo fandom, that isn't a game that is gonna hold me over until July 17th. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, we both hope that you are playing it in 2 months, and, we both love it, and it completely changes the way that we think about engaging with Mario Kart games, and I think for me, I'm completely open to just because of how, light the launch is, I'm completely open to trying to let it, kinda take over a little bit. Like, I'm gonna give it the best shot it can, like, it's on new hardware, it's got some of the things that I think draw me in with the open world, like, it's gonna do its best job at trying to, like, make me love it. And I think that that is a little exciting for me because it's like, well, I have to. Like, I have to love this game because this is the launch game. Um, and I think if I come out of it and don't love it, then it's like, well, at least I gave Mario Kart a real shot to be a game that I wanna come back to and play daily for me, you know?
Right.
Um, but then looking at I guess the other way to look at it, because this kind of ties with the Switch launch and the Switch 2 launch here, where we have Mario Kart at launch and Donkey Kong coming out a month later. For the Switch 1, it was like, well, you got Breath of the Wild, and then you got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe pretty much a month later. It came out in late April. Like, if we had flip-flopped Donkey Kong and Mario Kart where DK was the launch game and Mario Kart World came out in July, would that change your opinion? How would you feel about the stack up of Breath of the Wild and Donkey Kong at launch? Would you feel better about launch if DK was there instead of Mario Kart?
I would feel better if they were both there, honestly.
Sure.
Just
Yeah, yeah.
because I don't know. And this goes back to something that I've been thinking about since late last year. Nintendo had their I think it was their June direct last year, and they announced Echoes of Wisdom and Mario Luigi Brothership and Super Mario Party Jamboree. And I was thinking, like, why are they releasing all these games at the end of the Switch life cycle? And I understand like they need content, whatever. But it's like, how awesome would it have been to have a brand new top-down Zelda for the Switch 2 launch? You have you have the brand new Zelda representation there. You have Mario Kart. So if I feel like if they held at least Echoes of Wisdom for the launch of Switch 2. So you have
Mhm.
Echoes of Wisdom there, you have Mario Kart there. A month and a half later, you have Donkey Kong. I think I'm looking at that lineup, and I'm feeling pretty good about it because I have there's my main game in Echoes of Wisdom. There's my side game in Mario Kart that when I'm not playing Echoes of Wisdom, I'm doing the challenges. I'm doing the races, exploring the world, and then I play that in between my sort of main playtime of Echoes of Wisdom. And I found it to be sort of head scratching that they released Echoes of Wisdom so late into the Switch 1 life cycle. And I just thought to myself, like, why don't you just hold this for Switch 2? Because having that there would create a bigger wow factor than just farting it out at the end of the Switch life cycle. Like I don't know. And I understand like the Switch One isn't going anywhere. They're still gonna support it for at least a year, if not longer. We'll see how if sales go off a cliff or not for the Switch One. But it just at the time it felt weird. And now it kind of feels even weirder, in my opinion. That's just me though. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean it. I don't. I don't feel as straight. I would have loved to see. I think that they having Zelda representation at launch is something that I feel like is missing. At least something new. There is a lot of Zelda there. Again, we can't like I can't discredit the fact that I'm going to play one of those two games
Yeah.
with the Switch 2 versions at launch. So like that is going to be there. But yeah, I think it would have been more exciting to get that new Zelda, the new Echoes of Wisdom at launch, knowing it was so close. I am a little bit confused as to why they wouldn't hold it. And rumors on were they going to launch the Switch 2 in the fall or winter anyway, and maybe it was going to be a launch title and it wasn't, and they felt like, oh no, now we have a gap, and how do we keep excitement for the Switch up until we can get to the Switch 2? Maybe they felt like they needed that boost. Just because Mario and Luigi Brothership probably wasn't the game that was going to draw as many um, of the more I don't know casual Nintendo fans in as a
Right.
new Zelda entry would. Um, so yeah, I don't know on that one. It is odd though, and I wonder why they decided to release it then, knowing that two was within 6 months or so, whatever um, the spread of time was there.
Yeah, I tell you what you put out to pad your release schedule. You just drop Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD in a double
Mm,
pack like everyone has been asking for so many years, and then you call it a day. And everyone would have been happy. But I don't know. It is odd. But I mean, you can't overlook like the third party lineup for Switch 2. Um,
hmm
we got Fast Fusion, Survival Kids. I'm not quite sure what that is. I haven't seen anything about that.
That one is like
Uh,
a kid friendly survival crafting game, is what it seems
Interesting.
like. But those two that you called out are Switch 2 exclusives. Those are
Right.
the only two third party Switch 2 exclusives.
And then we got Civ 7, Switch 2 Edition, Cyberpunk 2077. Um, Deltarune going to be there for launch?
That's what I saw. I think I don't know if it's all a piece of it. Aren't they releasing multiple
Right. Yeah. The,
multiples?
the chapters or whatever, or the
Yeah, it was like
episodes,
all 4
however.
chapters. I think like 2 of the chapters are releasing at launch and 2 are later in the year. I
Right.
believe. I believe that's what it was.
Of course, Fortnite's going to be there. Kinetsugami, Path of the Goddess, Hitman World of Assassination, Hogwarts Legacy, Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition. They just put a couple of those games on I believe it was the SNES Nintendo Switch Online. So that's kind of cool to see. I don't know if they've made any new Nobunaga's games recently, or if it's they're trying to bring it back.
Mm.
But that's kind of cool that that's tied in. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, Rune Factory, Guardians of Azura or Az, yeah, I don't know, Azusa, whatever. Moving on. Sonic X Shadows Generation, Split Fiction, Street Fighter 6, Suikoden 1 and 2, HD Remaster, and Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. So, third party launch is pretty strong,
Hmm.
but at the same time, you can make the argument that we've already played these games on other platforms. Um, not except for Fast Fusion and Survival Kids. I mean, a ton of people have played Civ 7, Cyberpunk, and Hogwarts Legacy,
Hmm.
Sonic. So, it's great that these games are here, but there's really no new experiences on the third party front except for Fast Fusion and Survival Kids. So, um, compared to the Switch One launch third party, you had Fast RMX, Shovel Knight, I Am Setsuna, Skylanders, Imaginators, Super Bomberman R, and Just Dance 2017. So definitely a lot more support from third parties out the gate for Switch 2.
Yep.
A lot stronger titles, but I mean, I know there's a ton of people that the Switch was their main platform, so they're gonna be able to experience these games for the first time, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, but I know for a lot of people, they've already played these games. So what are your thoughts on the third party Switch 2 launch lineup?
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at the first two on the list, Fast Fusion and Fast RMX, like those are the same game, right? Like obviously a new version, but you pretty much say, all right, you check the box on Switch 1 and Switch 2 having this game from the same developer coming out at launch as an exclusive. And I actually really enjoyed Fast RMX at the Switch launch because it was that nice balance to Breath of the Wild. And I feel like it's a tougher one now because it's a racing game, and the main draw of the Switch 2 is Mario Kart World, which is a racing game. And
Right.
so, taking a break from a racing game to play another racing game for some people is going to be great. Um, but I just wish it was a change of pace like it was with the Switch 1 launch. Um, and I think really the rest of the Switch 1 launch was pretty weak. Shovel Knight is fantastic, but that's another one of those where you probably had played it already. Like it was certainly out and available um, prior to Switch One, so it wasn't like that was a new game. And then the other ones are pretty. I mean, do you play Just Dance? Do you like Skylander? Like there wasn't anything super notable at the Switch One launch, even if it was a game that was on another console already. There wasn't a big draw there. I do
Yeah.
think that there's definitely like Cyberpunk and Hogwarts and Split Fiction, like some of these big, more like AAA third party games that maybe you're right. If Switch One was your only console and now you're going to be able to play Cyberpunk or play Hogwarts, again, Hogwarts Hogwarts was on Switch One. I imagine this is going to be a much better experience on Switch Two than it
Yes.
was on Switch One.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's a stronger offering, but it's not a new offering. So if you've played these games, it's not going to be a big draw to come play them a second time on arguably a console that is, depending on where you played it, if you played it on PlayStation or on PC, is probably a weaker experience
Yep.
than what you got on your PlayStation. So it's nice to see the support, and I think that really bodes well for what we can expect moving forward as far as getting these third party games on launch day alongside the PS5 and Xbox versions. But I think for launch specifically, if you've played these, I don't think it's a good I don't think it's a big draw to come back and play them a second time on Switch 2 necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No new content for any of these really. I think that Hitman has some like Mario Luigi costumes or something like that.
That
But
makes
yeah,
sense.
there's really no new content in these games that isn't on other platforms currently. But the Switch 2 launch a little bit lighter than I would like it. Or sorry, the Switch. Did I say Switch 2 or Switch 1? Switch 2 launch is a little bit lighter than
Mm.
I would like it to be. But if we're looking at the rest of the year, it's actually a pretty strong year, and I argue that no, I can't say that. It's a strong year.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is. It definitely is.
you got Donkey Kong July 17th. I mean, you got Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV July 24th. Does that count? I find it tough because that is a Switch One game.
Depends
It's
on how
got some
good
new
the
content,
camera is, right? Like
right?
how cool is that camera implementation, and
Yep,
do you want to use it? Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
We got Kirby and the Forgotten Land plus Star Cross World August 28th. Again, do we count it? People have played it. Sure, there's new content for the Star Cross World. We'll see how significant that sort of DLC or whatever they're considering it is.
Hmm.
Um, we got Drag X Drive sometime in the summer. Is anyone excited about that? No, not really. Um, is that like sort of your Arms comp? Arms is probably going to end up being better. Um, then
But
we
it's
got
gonna be a
Metroid.
similar. If it scratches a similar itch for sure.
Sure, sure, yeah. I mean,
Itch on your
I,
legs or itch on your hand.
I
Like I don't know what you're itching, but yeah, it's doing something.
right. I'm not gonna play that at all. I don't think unless it comes out and it's lighting the world on fire. That's probably gonna be one that I'm gonna skip. But we got Metroid coming out sometime this year. Also, Pokemon Legends ZA. That is also a Switch One, but it's gonna be enhanced on the Switch Two. That's where I'm gonna play it. And then we got Kirby Air Riders coming out sometime this year as well. Um, compared to Switch One releases, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, April 28th, 2017. ARMS, June 16th, 2017. Splatoon 2, July 21st, 2017. Then Mario Odyssey, October 27th, 2017. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2, December 1st, 2017. So I was gonna say that I think the Switch 2 launch year is stronger than the Switch 1. It's not. I can't really say that. You got Mario and Zelda in the same year. That's pretty much gonna stomp any launch year ever. Plus
I
you
don't know.
had Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which a lot of people didn't play on the Wii U. So yeah, it's kind of hard to beat out the Switch One, um,
I
Switch
think it
One year one
depends.
release.
It depends on what you like. Like I think it comes down to how good is Donkey Kong Bonanza, and
Sure.
is it quality as good as Super Mario Odyssey? Because if it's as good as that quality wise,
Yep.
then hey, maybe we have a case for it. And then I think the other bit is just like, do you like multiplayer games? Because if you do, then yeah, Switch One had Mario Kart, Arms, and Splatoon. If you didn't like multiplayer and you knocked those three down a peg because you didn't really like them, then I think Switch Two has a really good chance with Donkey Kong, Metroid Prime, Pokemon Legends, updated content for Kirby. Like I think that there is a lot of good things here, and I knew exactly what you were thinking and holding back on saying that it was better. But like at the end of the year, we might look back and say, "Oh, actually, you were right. It is, or maybe it's as good as the Switch One, sort of launch year was." I think it definitely has the potential. It's doing it with some from franchises that maybe you wouldn't always expect to contend with the big two. But I think that at least we're set up to be surprised with what we might see.
Yeah, I think at the end of the year we might be sitting here and saying these but if we compare the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 launch year, they are pretty much dead even. Yeah, but it does hinge a lot on like what does Donkey Kong really look like? Is that comparable to Mario Odyssey? And then I guess if you want to compare Breath of the Wild to Mario Kart World, maybe I don't know. I know a lot of people are going to put a ton of time into that, and it's going to have a lot of content, I'm sure. But what it TBD. We'll see at
Yeah.
the end of the
Oh yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um, but we still have some pretty significant game releases for the Switch 2. As far as third party goes, we got Demon X Machina, Titanic Scion, which that game looks really cool.
It does.
So I am curious about that. I was mildly curious about the first one. I played the demo, and then I was like, I'm not really feeling this, so I didn't end up playing the full game. Then we got Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. I played the ever living heck out of Age of Calamity. Love that game. So I'm definitely excited for Age of Imprisonment. I'm definitely gonna be there day one. And Hades 2. A timed Switch 2 exclusive. How long it's gonna be Switch 2 exclusive for is up in the air. Probably I would say probably a year. You would think 6 months to a year. Um,
Yeah, it's somewhere
six
in there.
months
I
at the
wouldn't be
very least.
surprised if it was 6. Yeah.
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 But I absolutely love Hades 1. Hades 1 is probably one of my favorite games of all time. So to have Hades 2 there for the first year of the Switch, I am super excited about that.
Mhm.
But compared to third-party releases for the Switch 1, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle was August 29, 2017. Pokken Tournament DX September 22nd, 2017. And then we have Fire Emblem Warriors, October 20th, 2017. So, I mean, the first year of the Switch 2 and the Switch 1, you had Warriors games with Fire Emblem Warriors for Switch 1, and then Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment for Switch 2. So that's I think yeah, both launch years are pretty strong in my opinion.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I don't know.
agreed. When you lay it out, you realize I think that the support all around is actually probably on par to be just as good as Switch 1. We just get everything kind of gets fleshed out by some of these third party games that just weren't there. There just wasn't that support for the Switch 1. And it definitely makes it feel like the lineup is fuller. Um, but when you break it down, you realize kind of the support from Nintendo themselves is pretty comparable from 1 to 2,
Yeah,
depending on
definitely.
your tastes and what you prefer to play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But we don't really know much beyond this year for Switch 2. Um, we know that the Dust Bloods are coming in 2026. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Is that 2026 or is that this year?
I think it's supposed to be 2026 from what I saw
Okay.
as
But
far as future. Unless they pulled it up, they might have. I don't think so though.
yeah. And then we have for on the Nintendo published front, we have Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream next year. Rhythm Heaven Groove is next year as well. They weren't given any specific date, just a very vague 2026 release. So we're gonna have a Nintendo Direct sometime in June, I would imagine. Probably
Hmm.
the end of June, just to let the Switch 2 launch breathe a little bit.
Yep.
And then at the end of June, you're probably gonna have your Directs showcasing games in the early part of 2026. You might get one or two dropped for late 2025, but there are a lot of franchises that are sort of due for a new entry for the Switch 2. And you did sort of a deep dive. You did a little bit of research on the games that haven't had an entry in a little bit. You want to start going over the list a little and maybe yeah, we'll try to forecast a little bit. Maybe we could see some of these games launching next year.
Yeah, I think it kind of stemmed from we. It just kind of came up in conversation, but between the two of us on, are we going to see support for the Switch 2 from some more unlikely places, or maybe from the not Zeldas and the not Marios. Not to discredit the Switch 2 versions of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, of course. Um, but I think the biggest one that really just kind of makes a lot of sense is F-Zero. Knowing that that is one of the 3 games being launched for Nintendo Switch Online, uh, the GameCube. It's one of the 3 GameCube games that's coming out at launch for Switch 2.
Right.
And that they put out F-Zero 99 in 2023 after the series had really just kind of been dormant for like 20 years.
Yeah.
At least in the US, I think it was F-Zero GX was 2003. So for them to bring it back with F-Zero 99 and then bring it back as one of the top 3 games that comes out at Switch 2 launch is like, are they signaling that they're working on or trying to like test some interest in a new F-Zero game? And you had kind of brought it up, and it just made too much sense for it not to be something that's coming out.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of familiarity with F-Zero, so I'm not quite sure. Like, is this a game that does it have like a story mode or anything? Um, like how does it if they are bringing back F-Zero, how is it going to differentiate itself from Mario Kart World? Like, are you going to have like a robust story mode in the new F-Zero game? Are you gonna I to be honest, like F-Zero is a big blind spot for me. So I know nothing about the game. I've played probably like 30 seconds of F-Zero, whatever the Nintendo 64 one. What is it? F-Zero X? Is that the one on Nintendo 64?
I think so, because then GX was GameCube, right?
Right. So
Mhm.
I don't have a ton of familiarity, but like how are you gonna differentiate F-Zero from Mario Kart and make it feel different and make it feel like you're not just playing another racing game? You're playing another racing game, yes, but like how is
You
it
are,
gonna
yeah.
differentiate itself, you know? So,
I think I think they just cater to very different audiences.
right.
Where like F-Zero is just very specifically like almost punishingly fast. And like if you aren't absolutely dialed in control of what you're doing and in a split second making sure you're controlling where you're turning, moving, all of that, like it, it's a different kind of fun from Mario Kart. Mario Kart is
Yeah.
fun, and F-Zero is like, I guess some people find this fun, but this is punishing. So I think that they could put it out, and it's got enough of a fan base, and it's enough of a different game, um, that it makes sense to me. I honestly, I think it makes more sense than a Kirby Air Riders does. I
Oh,
think it's going to be hard
definitely,
for
yeah.
Kirby Air Riders to differentiate from the fun, play with friends kind of racing game that Mario Kart is. Not that there's definitely skill in Mario Kart; it's just a different skill in F
Mhm.
Zero.
Yeah, definitely. You're like white knuckling the entire time, so,
Exactly.
uh, next we have Animal Crossing. We haven't seen Animal Crossing since New Horizons in 2020. So by the time, I mean, we know there's no Animal Crossing coming out this year. We can
Right.
almost say with certainty that's not going to happen. But is are we due for a new Animal Crossing? 6 years. That feels like, yeah, that feels right to have it there in 2026. I think that'll be really exciting. Um, that feels right for a new Animal Crossing. 6 years. I don't know. I think what was it? New Leaf came out in 20. I think it was 20.
2012.
Was it 2012? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So between New Leaf and New Horizons, that was 8 years. Do you really want to wait 8 years between another entry in Animal Crossing? Because that game, I know the pandemic helped it a lot, but
Mhm.
that game really set the world on fire. Um, So you probably want to have a new one fairly quickly in and early in the Switch 2's life cycle. So I feel
Hmm.
pretty good about a new Animal Crossing in 2026. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, and exactly what you said with uh, New Horizons coming out in 2020 and like gaining this whole new batch of fans. I feel like Nintendo probably would want to capitalize on that with um, with a Switch 2 release, and I think waiting until 2026 probably makes more sense to let inventory flow in,
Yeah.
just because it's a game that you probably want people to be able to go and pick up a Switch 2 and pick up the game at the same time, knowing that maybe the last game they played was New Horizons in 2020. Um, who knows? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't play New Horizons. Animal Crossing really isn't a game that caters to me, but um, I think it would totally make sense to want to push another one out for the new console, knowing that at that point it would be 6 years, and that feels right.
Yeah. Totally. Next up, we got Yoshi. We haven't seen Yoshi since Crafted World in 2019. Before that, we saw him in Yoshi's Woolly World in 2015/2017 for the 3DS. 2019 for Yoshi. 2026. I could see a new Yoshi in 26.
Yeah,
That seems like a good game to sort of pad out your release schedule. And I think something that people need to consider about the release schedule for the Switch One is Nintendo had a lot of ports from the Wii U to pad out that schedule for the Switch One. They don't have that anymore. They don't have a bunch of low effort games that they can pump out um, and pad out their release schedule while they're working on other games. So
I'm not going to see a
I
bunch of
don't.
Switch 2 versions. You say
I
Switch
mean,
2 edition? Here it comes. Here's the Wii U ports all over again.
you they you might be right. They might go that route. I, I, I would find that really cheesy if they did that. But yeah, they don't have that Wii U library to sort of fall back on anymore. Um, the Switch One, everybody played all those games very thoroughly.
Hmm.
So I don't think they can go back and say, well, not a lot of people played Hyrule Warriors definitive, or it wasn't definitive edition on the Switch One. The original Hyrule Warriors or Pokken
Yep.
Tournament or Mario 3D World, whatever. So a game like Yoshi, I feel like is pretty low effort. You don't have to do a ton with it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yoshi is Yoshi. So I feel like that would be a pretty good game to slide in there in 2026. So
Agreed. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think. Just I actually didn't realize that Crafted World was that long ago.
yeah, it was a long
For
time
some
ago.
reason, I thought it'd been more recent. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this makes so much sense for this to
Yeah.
be they put out in the first year and a half or 2 years of Switch 2."
Yeah. Then we got Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem, the last time we saw that was Fire Emblem Engage in 2023. Nintendo seems to like to put out Fire Emblem games. Uh, they don't wait very long between Fire Emblem games. I mean, you had Three Houses in 2019, but before that, you had Fire Emblem Echoes in 2017. And then the longest wait was between Fire Emblem Three Houses and Fire Emblem Engage in 2023. So you had 4 years. So there's this rumor out there that there's a Genealogy of the Holy War remake that
Mm,
Nintendo is sitting on. Do we see that in 2026? That makes sense. Do we need? And then you give a little bit of a little bit more time for intelligent systems to make the next new entry in Fire Emblem. I think Genealogy of the Holy War makes a ton of sense to release in 2026. That can be a game that is put out on Switch 1 and also an enhanced edition, Switch 2 edition on Switch 2.
mhm.
So Fire Emblem, I think for 2026, that could be a pretty good a pretty good release in Nintendo's schedule, I would think.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Totally makes sense with whether it's. I mean, yeah, and that remake or re-release is an easy option.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Um,
what we got
ne-
next?
Next up, you have on the list Xenoblade. Um, we just had Xenoblade Chronicles X definitive edition released a couple months ago in March. Before that, we had Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in 2022, which it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, really.
It doesn't.
But it was, yeah, it was 2022. Um, and then uh, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came to Nintendo Switch 1 on in December of 2017. So you had 5 years between Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2, but you also had Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 Definitive Edition
Yep.
in 2020. I think it was it March? No, it wasn't March. It was sometime in 2020. I can't
I
remember.
think it was in the first half of 2020, I believe, though.
Yeah.
Might have been March or
Um,
May. Yeah.
but Monolith Soft seems to be pumping out games, and there was some concept art for a new Monolith Soft game out floating out there on the internet. I don't know how valid that concept art is. I don't know if that's real, if it's fake. Um, 2026 for a new Monolith Soft game. It could, for me,
We
it's
might
like,
be thinking about 2027, actually. We might
right.
be.
Yeah, it's like flip
Yeah.
a coin. That could be because I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but Monolith Soft is a huge studio. They have about 300 people working there. So you could have 100 people working on, and they provide a lot of support for Nintendo first party games such as Zelda, Animal Crossing, Splatoon. So if you split your team into three, let's say three different verticals, you have one vertical working to support Nintendo first party games. You have one vertical that was working on, let's say they were working on Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And then you have one vertical working on a brand new game, be it another Xenoblade game or a whole new world and idea. Um, 2026 seems like it could be reasonable. I feel like 2027 would make more sense in my mind, but
Hmm.
I wouldn't rule it out for 2026. You seem to be um in the same mind.
Yeah. I feel like it's either a late 26 or an early, like, or sometime in 27 where it could happen. Um, and like what it is, I don't know. Like, it would be really cool if it was a brand new IP.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably not going to be with the amount that they ported everything over to the Switch to make sure people knew about Xenoblade Chronicles. Um, but like, is it Xenoblade Chronicles 4 or is it Xenoblade Chronicles X2? I have no idea. It could be any of those. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
I have no idea.
Next up, Luigi's Mansion. We haven't seen Luigi's Mansion since Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. That was last year. Wow, that was last year, huh? Okay. And
Mhm.
then the last time we had a brand new Luigi's Mansion game was 2019. So 7 years by the time 2026 rolls around. Um, and next level, their last game was Mario Strikers, which came out, I think it was 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
That seems right.
Uh, that sounds right. But 2026 for Luigi's Mansion, I would flip a coin on that one as well. I could see it in 2026, and I could easily see it in 27. I
Mhm.
think Luigi's Mansion 3 was a surprise hit for Nintendo where it sold, I think, somewhere between 10 and 15 million copies, which is a huge success. And I don't think any prior Luigi's Mansion games were that successful. So I think that Luigi's Mansion 4 will be a priority for Nintendo, especially with um, how well Next Level did with Luigi's Mansion 3. So uh, yeah, we'll see. I could easily see it in 2027, but 2026 maybe it's a an October release for Halloween. I could see
Could
that.
be. Yeah, yeah. I think it probably also comes down to, like, we obviously didn't bring up Mario. Um, like, do we see a new Mario next fall? I think that you and I are probably thinking the answer is no. And if the answer is no, with Nintendo planning ahead to make sure that they at least get a Luigi's Mansion game out in 2026 so that you can see Mario in 2027, maybe. I could see that maybe happening. But if we hear news that there's going to be a Mario game in 2026, then that probably pushes Luigi into 2027. And I probably feel
Mm.
maybe like that's the more realistic path there. But again, we don't know on either of those. So I could see it going either way.
Yeah, you would think, I don't know. I'm so like on Mario, I'm so like back and forth. It's like Mario's got to be there next year, right? Like it has to be. But at the same time, it's like, does it? Like I don't know. Like I think switch to year. I don't know. Going in, finishing up the first year, heading into the second year. I think you're gonna see probably a lighter, not lighter, but like you're gonna see a lot more B type tier releases, such as yeah, you'll probably see an F Zero, Animal Crossing, maybe like Animal Crossing is A tier. Yes, I get it. Yoshi definitely B, maybe C tier. Fire Emblem, as much as I love Fire Emblem, it's probably B tier. Xenoblade, you know, if we see that, that's probably B tier as well. That's a very niche series. Luigi's Mansion, uh, that's up for debate, I guess.
Yeah,
I would
it
put it
really is.
here. Um, but I don't, yeah, I don't know. And then we got Splatoon. We haven't seen Splatoon since 2022. You would think that also Nintendo would want to prioritize Splatoon, getting out Splatoon 4. I just, I just don't know if you see it in 2026. That seems like that feels too soon. It might not be too soon, but it feels too soon. We just got the side order DLC. I think
Hmm.
last year?
I think
Uh,
so.
so that
Yeah.
was fairly recent. Um, so I'm not, yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on Splatoon. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, you're gonna see Splatoon again in 2027. Um, which
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I just don't know. Like, it's all comes down to how much does Nintendo want to make sure that they get one of their big multiplayer series on the Switch 2 as quick as possible. And like
yeah,
pointing to the chat button on the controller, like, how many games do they have in their arsenal that can support that button? And I feel like Splatoon is like made for that.
yes,
So
yes.
that's maybe the one thing that makes me think they might push it a little bit quicker. And knowing that we got 2 iterations on Switch 1, they I just think they jump on a little bit quicker. Because it would be 4 years at that point, and that wouldn't be too crazy. But um, yeah, I don't know. It could happen. It could happen just for the sake of getting another multiplayer title on the device.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not unreasonable because Splatoon 1 came out May 28th, 2015. Splatoon 2 came out when was it? July 21st, 2017. And then Splatoon 3 came out September 9th, 2022. So there is a pretty short time span in between these games.
Hmm.
So I guess so it was 2 years in between, not even like a year and a half between Splatoon 1 and 2, and then 2017, so 5 years between Splatoon 2 and 3. So I guess 4 years wouldn't be too far fetched, but I feel like with Splatoon 4, they're gonna want to mix it up because I feel like people are getting the sense that Splatoon is getting a little bit stale.
Hmm.
That seems to have been the sentiment around Splatoon 3. It's like, yeah, we've already kind of seen this before, and I think they're gonna want to shake it up a little bit more, which that gives me a little bit a little bit of pause on uh saying that there will be a new Splatoon in 26. It
Do
could
you
happen, but
do you think we're more likely to see Splatoon 3 Nintendo Switch 2 edition where like they take advantage of the 120 hertz frame rate? And it's like now you can play Splatoon at 120 hertz. That would make sense for that game. Add in new chat features and maybe another piece of DLC. I could almost see that happening. And then they take their time to come out with another version.
I think that they would just want to move on to the next one. If that was the case, just because you don't want to be supporting Splatoon 3 for too long, and then be supporting Splatoon 4. That's only that's my
Hmm.
sort of thought process on it, because you don't want to be like, okay, Splatoon 3 is here, Switch 2 edition, and then a year later here comes Splatoon 4. I think you would just want to streamline, or not streamline, you just want to expedite a new
Yeah.
Splatoon entry if that was the case. So yeah, I don't know. That really is a tough one, I think.
It really is. Like I just don't see how they don't get some kind of Splatoon representation with that chat feature.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's the perfect.
that's
I
gonna
don't.
lean into
And I,
that heavy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see.
yeah. It's yeah. Flip a coin. I could go one way or the other with Splatoon, honestly. And
Yep.
then sort of the last one that we haven't seen an entry in this franchise for a long time, Star Fox. We haven't seen Star
Hmm.
Fox since 2016. I mean, um, Star Fox 64 got, I think it was there when Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack launched, if I'm remembering correctly, or it was there quickly after. But it by the time 2026 rolls around, it's gonna be 10 years since we've seen Star Fox. I think this is the perfect time to bring that franchise back. Um, you're gonna have to reinvent it. You're gonna have to do something brand new with Star Fox. You can't just
Yep.
roll out the same dogfight and have like a 4-hour campaign and charge $70 for it. You can't do that. I
Yeah.
think that we've spoken about this before, but I think that a mix between old style 3D Zelda, sort of like a Star Fox Adventures, mixed with like old Star Fox, like Star Fox 64. You kind of marry those two together, and that's your new Star Fox game. Like, you go adventuring on these planets, you get in your spaceship, you go blast whatever spaceships, in between planets, and then you land on a new planet and you go explore that planet, and
Yep.
then that's how the game flows. And I think that'd be really cool to sort of switch up Star Fox like that and breathe new life into it. But as Star Fox stands now, I don't think that it's a very good formula in this day and age, and I think that it needs to uh severely be reinvented, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it feels like if they're not gonna make a new IP, which is something that like we haven't talked about that at all. Who knows if they release something new for Switch 2, right? Is there something new there? If they don't, then it totally makes sense for Star Fox to kind of be that single player sort of like sci-fi Zelda that is kind of missing. Now, again, I guess you could say that's Metroid, right? But Metroid has a
Yeah,
certain like it the whole Metroidvania of being very almost like puzzle like in the way it unfolds. We're sort of missing that kind of open the open sci-fi-ness that you could get from a Star Fox, where you go from planet to planet, kind of the openness that you felt with some of the newer Zeldas, with your Breath of the Wilds, on like just kind of the exploration.
Right.
I feel like you could just do that with Star Fox, and it would totally make sense.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more lighthearted than Metroid. So,
Yeah,
and you add like another sci-fi um
it could be
franchise
multiplayer.
mix.
You could do
Yeah, could do
multiplayer,
multiplayer
right?
as well. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So that would be interesting. I feel like the switch to year two lineup is gonna be you're gonna see a lot of B tier type games. You might see an A tier in there, but
Animal
I
Crossing, right? Like that's the one that makes the
right,
most sense. Yeah,
exactly. But
yeah,
like I'm not trying to disrespect any of these franchise. Like I love Fire Emblem. Luigi's Mansion, I'm a big fan. If they came out with a Star Fox game like we just described, I would be all over that. I like Splatoon. Next,
yeah.
the year two lineup, it could be strong, but it's not gonna be Mario probably, or you're not gonna see a brand new Zelda. You're not gonna see Smash. We already saw Mario Kart, so
Yeah, it'll be an unconventionally strong year maybe for year 2,
yeah.
which is kind of
I,
exciting. Like I think it's fun when they lean into some of these other sort of lower tier franchises that they have. I think that's like, what you're getting with a new Mario most of the time, and it's great. But yeah, it's fun to kind of see them put the spotlight on some of their other titles.
yeah, it'll be interesting what they sort of pull out for year two and to see what they're cooking. And yeah, I'm excited. So,
Same. It's almost here. We're almost there.
but yep, that is all the time we have for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you all on the next one. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye, everyone.